When I showed up for Thanksgiving, there was no seat for me at the table. So I booked a flight instead, and now they're crying because. Okay, so I'm still reeling from what happened, and I need to share this. I, 29M, have been in a weird spot with my family for the past few years. It's always been a little rocky, but things reached a breaking point last Thanksgiving. I don't really know how we got here, but the last few years have been like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It feels like no matter how much I try, I just don't belong there anymore. For context, my family is, well, let's just say they have their way of doing things. My mom, Mary, is the typical, I'm doing everything for everyone type. She has this need to be the center of everything and controls a lot of the family dynamics. I have one sibling, my brother Evan, who's 26. We're not super close. He's always been the golden child in my mom's eyes, handsome, outgoing, and he has this ability to charm people without trying. Me? I'm the quiet one, the bookish type. Not really their favorite, but I always just tried to keep the peace and stay out of the way. Thanksgiving rolls around, and I get a call from my mom asking if I'm coming to dinner. She's always been super strict about Thanksgiving, like it's some sacred family event. I've been working hard lately and didn't really have the mental energy for a family gathering, but I didn't want to rock the boat, so I said I'd come. But here's where things start to go wrong. The night before Thanksgiving, I get a text from Evan, casually mentioning that he and his girlfriend invited a few of their friends to dinner this year. Not unusual, but then he adds that it's gonna be a bigger crowd this time. I don't think much of it, assuming it's just a few extra people. Then, I get another message from him, saying, "Hey, I'm sure you won't mind, but I think Mom forgot to tell you. We're all sitting in the dining room this year. We're moving around a bit to fit more people, so we're just gonna need to make sure everyone has their spot." I didn't think anything of it at first. I assumed he meant the usual routine. Maybe someone else would sit at the kids' table or something, but no big deal. But when I show up to the house, the whole vibe is off. First, there's this group of people I don't even recognize. Evan's friends, I guess. They're already settled in the living room, chatting and laughing. It's fine, people are welcome, right? But I didn't expect to be so ignored. Mom's running around, making sure everyone has drinks, ignoring the fact that I'm standing there with my coat on, just kind of awkwardly looking around. Finally, after a while, Mom notices me. She's like, "Oh, sweetie, so good to see you. Go ahead and sit at the table, Evan. Make sure your brother has a seat." And that's when it happened. Evan looks at me for a second and then glances back at the other side of the room. "Oh, actually, we need that spot for one of our friends. Why don't you just sit over there on the couch or something?" Now, at this point, I'm just staring. No seat at the table? I've never been a huge fan of the assigned seating thing, but this was different. This wasn't some casual rearranging of chairs. This felt deliberate. I knew I couldn't be imagining it, but there was no way I was going to make a scene in front of Evan's friends. So I just said, "Okay, no problem," and went to sit on the couch. As dinner goes on, I'm just sitting there, watching the rest of them eat and talk. All this laughter and conversation happening at the table. At some point, I get up to grab a drink, and I hear my mom talk to someone in the kitchen, saying, "I just don't know what happened. He used to be so close to the family, and now it's like he doesn't want to be here. It's really sad." My blood starts to boil. I want to scream, but I don't. I don't even know how I kept it together, honestly. This was getting ridiculous. By the time dinner wrapped up, and everyone was moving to the living room to hang out, I made my decision. I told Mom I was leaving. She didn't even try to convince me to stay. "Oh, sweetie, you're always welcome here," she said in that voice of hers that sounds like she's giving you permission, but in reality, she's just dismissing you. I walked out of there, and I didn't look back. But instead of going home, I did something that I guess I could have avoided. But the more I thought about it, the more it felt right. I grabbed my phone and booked a last-minute flight. The destination? Not somewhere random, no. I was going to visit my old friend Jessie, who lives across the country. She hadn't seen me in years, and I figured, why not make the best out of this mess? I get to the airport, and by the time I land, I'm feeling a mix of relief and anger. I'm out of the toxic environment, and I can finally breathe. The first thing I do when I get to Jessie's place is post a picture of myself enjoying Thanksgiving, but it's not at a family table. It's me with Jessie, laughing at some random diner, eating a burger. I caption it. Sometimes the best holiday is the one you make yourself. And here's where it gets messy. I hadn't even been in the city for a few hours when my phone blows up. It's Mom, it's Evan, it's even a couple of cousins, and they're all mad. It starts with texts like, "What's the deal? Why'd you leave? You're making a scene." And then it escalates into more frantic messages from my mom asking where I am and why I'm ruining the holiday. But then it got worse. Evan sends me this text that pretty much made me lose it. "You really think you're so important, don't you? You're acting like a spoiled child. Mom's upset because of you, and you should apologize." It was like a slap in the face. I'd been nothing but accommodating to them, but they treated me like an afterthought. I hadn't even considered going back at this point, but I knew I had to respond. So I did. I sent a simple message. "If I'm not welcome at the table, then I'm not going to beg for a seat. You can keep the holidays. I'm done." And that's when the real drama started. I started getting frantic calls from my mom, saying things like, "Please just come back. We're sorry. It was a mistake. Don't do this. We miss you." Evan, of course, called me a drama queen and saying it's all my fault. The texts and calls just keep coming, each one more frantic and desperate. They're begging me to come back, but there's no way in hell I'm going to give in. After I sent that message about not coming back, things didn't calm down. If anything, it got worse. The texts and calls didn't stop. They all started to blend together. My mom's frantic ones, saying how much she needed me there, how the family just wasn't the same without me. It sounded rehearsed, like she was reading from a script. Evan's messages, on the other hand, were full of passive-aggressive remarks. "If you really cared about family, you'd stop acting like this," was the one that hit hardest. But here's the kicker. The day after I left, my mom posted a family photo on Facebook with the caption, "Grateful for family, love, and togetherness. So thankful we're all here this year." I couldn't help but feel like I was the missing piece they were pretending didn't matter. I couldn't even scroll through my feed without seeing that fake smile on my mom's face, the one she always puts on when everything's fine. I was so close to commenting something snarky, but I stopped myself. Part of me wanted to stir the pot, but the other part knew that would just play into their hands, giving them another reason to label me as the problem. The whole time I was with Jessie, I kept thinking about how different things felt with her. She's the friend who's always had my back, no matter what. She's the kind of person who doesn't make you feel like you have to perform for their approval. We spent Thanksgiving just talking, eating junk food, watching movies, and making fun of the whole holiday spirit nonsense. I didn't feel like I had to be someone else around her. Still, that nagging voice in the back of my head kept telling me that maybe I was overreacting. I mean, my family's not perfect, but they're family, right? Maybe I should have just sucked it up and gone back. I thought about what my mom would say when she saw me again. She'd probably act like nothing ever happened and beg me to forgive her, like she always does. I couldn't tell if I'd be able to take that, if I'd be able to go back to pretending like I was okay with the way they treat me. Jessie could tell something was off. We'd been talking about everything, and she could see how torn I was. She kept reassuring me that I wasn't crazy for wanting to distance myself. She pointed out something that I hadn't really realized before. I didn't have to keep putting myself through the emotional roller coaster for their sake. Still, I found myself texting Evan a few days later. Not to apologize, but just to clear the air a little. I don't know why I thought it would make a difference. Maybe I wanted to feel like I was being the bigger person. The text was short, but I asked him what he thought about everything, just trying to understand where he was coming from. His reply was fast, and it hit me like a punch to the gut. "I honestly don't even know why you're making this into such a big deal. It's just Thanksgiving. Why do you always have to be so dramatic about everything?" And that's when it really clicked. I wasn't the one being dramatic. I wasn't the one who had thrown a fit about a stupid seat at the table. No, they had been dismissing me for years without even realizing how it affected me. Or maybe they did realize and just didn't care. I remember sitting there, staring at my phone, thinking about how I'd been treated for so long. It wasn't just this one Thanksgiving. It was every time they'd invited me to some family event or dinner, only for me to show up and be ignored, or worse, belittled by Evan. It wasn't even about the seat at the table. It was about how every family gathering felt like a performance, where I was the understudy. I was never the star of the show. The truth is, I'd let it slide for way too long. I convinced myself that I was just being sensitive, that maybe I wasn't seeing the bigger picture. But when I showed up this time and was literally told there wasn't a seat for me, it was like something inside me broke. It was the final straw in a long line of microaggressions and dismissals. I realized that for years, I had been asking for respect. Not even in big ways, just basic human decency. But I wasn't getting it. So I'd finally taken a stand, in the only way I knew how, by walking away. But now, it felt like I was in this weird limbo. I was proud of myself for not letting them treat me that way anymore, but I was also scared. I wasn't ready to completely sever ties with them, but I didn't want to go back to that toxic environment. What if this was it? What if there was no going back after this? Would I regret it? I went to bed that night still turning the situation over in my mind. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. The last thing I wanted was to leave things unfinished with my family, but I also didn't know how much more of their nonsense I could take. The next day, my phone rang. It was my mom. For a second, I almost didn't pick up. Part of me wanted to just ignore it, but I didn't. I answered, and her voice was shaky, like she'd been crying. "Sweetie, please. Please, come home. I don't know what's happening with us, but I miss you. We all miss you." The words were so familiar, like she was reading from the same script she always uses when she knows she's messed up. But this time, something felt different. I didn't know if it was because I was so far from the situation now, or if it was just the years of pent-up frustration, but I felt a coldness creeping over me. I wasn't sure how to respond. I was so torn between wanting to fix things and not wanting to go back to the same toxic cycle. After that phone call, I spent the next couple of days thinking about what to do. Every time I checked my phone, there were more messages from my mom and Evan. It felt like I was being suffocated with apologies, but I didn't know if I was ready to accept them. Part of me felt bad. After all, they were family, and wasn't that supposed to mean something? But the other part of me just couldn't forget how they had treated me all these years. It wasn't just the seat at the table, it was everything leading up to that. They'd never made an effort to really understand what I needed. It had always been about their comfort, their plans, their holidays. Every time I showed up, I was just expected to fit in like I didn't have my own life, my own feelings. But here's the thing, I had finally reached a point where I didn't feel like I owed them anything anymore. I wasn't about to beg for a seat at a table where I wasn't even wanted. The more I thought about it, the more I realized something. I didn't need to fix this, not right away. I didn't need to rush back just to make them feel better. I'd spent enough of my life walking on eggshells, pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. That's when the idea hit me. I didn't want to make a big show of it. I wasn't trying to burn bridges. But I wasn't going to let them just sweep this under the rug either. If they wanted to understand how it felt to be treated like an afterthought, I had to make them feel it. I wanted them to know that I wasn't just going to drop everything and show up when they felt like it. So, I started with the small things. I didn't respond to their texts. I didn't pick up the phone. I didn't want to hear their excuses, and I wasn't ready to forgive just because they were sorry. But I needed to do more. I had some time off work, and that's when I decided to book a trip. I didn't want to go anywhere fancy, just far enough to get away and clear my head. I found a cheap last-minute flight to a city I'd always wanted to visit, a place where I could just be on my own for a while. I knew it would drive them crazy, but it wasn't about revenge. It was about me taking control of my life for once. The day I left, I posted a picture from the airport with a simple caption, "Sometimes you just need to get away." Within hours, the messages started flooding in. At first, it was my mom, of course. She was upset, asking if I was really just going to leave them hanging like this. "Why are you doing this? We just want to see you." I could almost hear her voice cracking through the text. And then came Evan, with his usual mix of guilt and anger. "You're being ridiculous. This is just like you to overreact. You're seriously going to ruin everything over one stupid holiday." I didn't respond to any of them. I didn't even feel the need to. Part of me wanted to just enjoy my time away without thinking about them, without the constant weight of their expectations hanging over me. I spent the next few days exploring the city, eating good food, relaxing, and doing exactly what I wanted to do. I felt freer than I had in a long time. And every time I checked my phone, I saw the messages from them getting more frantic. "Please, call me. We just want to talk." I even had a missed call from my mom, which was odd because we hadn't really talked on the phone in ages. But here's where it got interesting. The longer I stayed away, the clearer it became that I didn't need them as much as they needed me. They'd always made me feel like I was the one who had to make the effort, the one who had to keep everything together. I'd been over backwards for years to accommodate their plans and demands, but now that I was the one choosing what was best for me, it felt like they were falling apart without me. The real twist? I didn't miss them, not like I thought I would. I didn't miss the tension, the passive-aggressive comments from Evan, the way my mom would treat me like I was the problem whenever things didn't go according to her plan. I realized that maybe I'd been the one enabling their behavior all along by letting them get away with it. Maybe by stepping back, I was giving them the space to see what it would feel like without me always cleaning up their messes. After a few days, my mom sent one final message, and I could tell she was starting to panic. "We're really sorry. Please come home. We want to make things right. We can fix this. You're part of this family." I thought about it for a while. It wasn't that I didn't want to talk, but I knew that this was the moment where they needed to realize that I wasn't just going to fall back into the same toxic cycle. I wasn't going to let them think that they could pull me back in with empty apologies. Instead of responding right away, I decided to let her stew. I wanted her to understand that my absence wasn't just some tantrum I was throwing. I wasn't a little kid anymore, begging for their attention. I was an adult, and if they wanted me in their lives, they were going to have to show me some respect. And that's where I left it. I didn't text back, didn't call. I stayed in the city for a few more days. I had no plans to go back immediately. What they didn't realize was that my absence was a message in itself. I didn't need to scream or demand things from them. I just had to walk away and let them feel what it was like to lose me. After a few days of being away, I started to feel like maybe I had pushed things far enough. My mom and Evan kept calling and texting, but I still hadn't responded. I wasn't trying to be petty. I just needed the time and space to think things through without their constant noise in the background. But the more I sat with it, the more I realized how exhausted I was from always being the one to reach out, always being the one to fix things. I knew that I could go back and say, "I'm sorry, I overreacted," just to keep the peace, but that would have been the easy way out. The truth was, I was tired of always putting them first, of always swallowing my feelings just so they wouldn't feel uncomfortable. I had spent years trying to make them happy, and it never seemed to be enough. But I wasn't about to let my family think they could just keep doing whatever they wanted and that I would always come running back. They had to understand that if they wanted me around, they needed to change how they treated me. It wasn't a matter of me being dramatic or holding a grudge. It was about boundaries. It was about me choosing to put myself first for once, instead of being the one who always cleaned up their messes and got nothing in return. I didn't respond to my mom's frantic texts or the voicemail she left me. Instead, I booked a flight home, but not with the intention of going back to things as they were. I wasn't just going to show up like everything was fine. I needed them to know that I was coming back, but it would be on my terms, not theirs. The flight back was one of the longest I'd ever taken, not because it was physically tiring, but because I had so much on my mind. What would I say when I saw them? Would they really get it? Or would they just keep pushing me to forgive and forget? When I finally landed, I didn't head straight to my mom's house like I might have before. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of thinking I was coming back, eager to patch things up. No, this time I took a detour. I found a small cafe nearby and sat there for a while, nursing a coffee and letting my thoughts settle. I wasn't in a rush to face her. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I had been the one to always make the first move, always the one to sacrifice my peace for the sake of the family. But not anymore. I needed to make sure I didn't give in this time. I couldn't just show up on her doorstep like everything was fine, like I hadn't spent years being ignored and undermined. This wasn't about easing their guilt. This wasn't about making them feel better. This was me, finally standing my ground. Eventually, after some time alone, I made my way to her house. I could hear her voice faintly on the other side of the door as I approached, but it wasn't the voice of someone who was genuinely concerned. It was that same manipulative tone she always used, calm, controlled, like she had rehearsed exactly what she was going to say. I knocked. When she opened the door, I stood there for a moment, letting the silence stretch between us. I wasn't in any hurry to rush in. I wasn't going to play along like I had before, just slipping back into the role she had carved out for me. I looked her square in the eye, letting her see the weight of the decision I had made. "I'm here," I said, finally. "But things have changed. I'm not just going to pretend like everything's okay anymore. Her face shifted in that way I'd seen too many times, shocked at first, but quickly masking it with that veneer of calm. She tried to smile, but it came across as more forced than anything. She didn't speak right away, probably trying to gauge if I was serious or if I was just going to cave in like I always had. I wasn't going to make it easy for her. I've spent years trying to make things work, I continued, my voice steady but firm. Trying to keep everyone happy, but I've been miserable. You and Evan always act like I'm the problem when things go wrong, but you never once stop to think about how I feel. I've put everyone's needs before my own for so long, and I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not just going to walk back into this family and pretend nothing happened. For the first time, I saw her falter. That cool, controlled facade cracked just a little. But I wasn't done. I'm not here for your apologies, Mom. I'm not here to make you feel better about everything. I need something real. I need you to understand that I'm not going to accept being treated like this anymore. If you want me in your life, if you want me to be part of your family, you're going to have to prove it. I'm not doing this the old way. It's not enough anymore. She stared at me, completely still. She didn't respond right away. I think she was trying to process what I said, but I could see the familiar flicker of irritation in her eyes, like she was trying to regain control. She was used to me backing down, used to getting her way. But not this time. Finally, she spoke, her voice softer than usual. I don't know how we got here. I don't know how I missed it all these years, she said, almost like she was saying it to herself more than to me. But I'm listening now. You're right. We've been taking you for granted. I wanted to believe her, but I wasn't sure I could anymore. She tried again, her voice shaky. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was this bad for you. I'll try harder, I promise. That apology wasn't enough. It felt hollow, and I wasn't about to let it slip by like it always had. She was good at sounding sincere when she wanted to, but I had been burned by her too many times to fall for it again. I'm not here to accept empty promises, I said, cutting her off. And I'm not just going to act like everything is fine. You've hurt me, Mom. You've made me feel invisible for years. I need to know you actually see me, and not just as someone to control or to make you feel better when things go wrong. She stayed quiet, a little longer this time. No angry outbursts, no playing the victim. She just sat there, thinking, but I wasn't sure if it was because she was genuinely reflecting or if she was just trying to figure out how to manipulate this situation in her favor. Either way, I wasn't going to make it easy for her. I don't want your apology. I want you to show me that you actually care, I told her, standing up. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I'm not going to just forgive and forget because it's convenient for you. I'm not a backup option. She didn't say anything else. She looked defeated and maybe a little scared, but I wasn't sure if it was real. It didn't matter. I wasn't going to bend this time. Later that day, Evan showed up. He didn't knock. He just let himself in like always, with that same entitled attitude that had been a constant presence in my life. The second he saw me, I could tell he was annoyed, like I was the one ruining everything. He probably thought that this whole thing would blow over, and I'd just fall back in line like I always did. He was wrong. You've really made a scene, huh? He said, looking at me with that usual mixture of judgment and frustration. This is so overdramatic. Mom's trying. You need to stop being so stubborn. I'm not stubborn, I shot back. I'm done being treated like I don't matter. I'm not here to make anyone else feel better about their guilt. If you want me around, you need to show me you actually care, not just when it's convenient for you. He opened his mouth, but I could see the deflection in his eyes, the way he wanted to blame me. But this time, I didn't let him. I'm done with the excuses, Evan, I said, my voice hardening. You don't get to keep pushing me aside and then act like nothing's wrong. I'm not a backup plan. If you want me to be part of your life, it's going to have to be on my terms, not yours. It wasn't the big, dramatic confrontation I had imagined, and maybe it wasn't the resolution I had hoped for. But it was enough. It was me finally taking control. In the end, things didn't magically fix themselves. It wasn't some fairy tale reconciliation. But for once, I didn't feel like the one carrying the weight of the family's issues. I had spoken up. I had made my boundaries clear, and no matter what happened next, I knew that I wasn't going to settle for anything less than respect.